You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika with Vicky. Our returning guests, high strangeness researcher Michelle Desrochers, and the author of the Vampyre Tales, Wayne Mallows, who should be along momentarily, and me, your host, Vicky Benison. Michelle has brought her love of history, architecture, travel, mysterious things, and research to many media platforms, including the ever popular The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano right here on UPN. Wayne has used his own similar interests in writing, creating characters and props, and restoring historic homes. Sharing these interests has created a friendship between us over the years, as passions always do. Today, we're focusing on vampires, the lore, the revolution of revolution. I hope they don't revolt because we'll be in trouble. Its evolution and roots, even traveling to Romania. Sorry, I have Bulgaria on my mind. To Romania vicariously through Michelle. I'm looking forward to this one. Thanks so very much. Very much, Michelle and Wayne, and welcome to Fika.
You're welcome. Wayne is just fighting with his computer, apparently, so he might be a bit, but
maybe we should be doing this show on AI.
I know.
Technology.
Oh my gosh. I'm just like, okay. I can't do tech and a smiling face right now.
Well, I will start with you. Because you're here.
That's helpful.
Right. But first, Heidi, Kathy, and I'll say hello and this morning. And thank you for watching. Michelle, for those who may not know what exactly, good morning, Robin, as well. What high strangeness encompasses. Could you please give them an idea?
Oh, high strangeness is a whole boatload of fun wrapped up into one beautiful, crazy package. Essentially, it's anything deemed, shall we say, out of this world, perhaps not necessarily explained, things that are not everyday occurrences, such as cryptozoology, paranormal, ufology, anything that's out there, even ancient history. You know, like I always like to use the examples of the Grand Canyon. And there's an area there that is off limits and monitored by the U.S. military because they have found Egyptian artifacts and stuff such inside. It's crazy stuff. So, you know, that's highly strange because you're not allowed near it. And why is it there?
Well, also in his,
but you know.
Oh, look! Yay! Wayne is joining us.
Hey. All right. Right.
This is the Wayne I spoke of in the introduction. I'm not going to do it again.
Right.
Computer issues.
Always. That's why I said we should have done on tech and AI. But the thing is that ancient history is all strange to us because we weren't there. There wasn't a lot of stuff written down. So it's all, what we can literally dig up as we go along, right?
Or is it that we're just not looking in the right places? Because if you're going back into times of ancient Sumeria, there's the ancient Sumeria's kings list, which goes back 450,000 years ago, and they were ruling for roughly 28,000 years at a time. There are petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, things of that nature, out of place artifacts. It's all there. We've just been conditioned maybe to not recognize it, not look for it. There's so much under the water, under the soil, in the mountains. It is really all around us. We're just not recognizing, let's say, a pyramid because it's been covered over with growth throughout, even since the Ice Age, and you recognize it. You're like, that's a pyramid. No, that's a mountain, like Antarctica. It's a freaking pyramid. It's like, you know, sorry, but if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a bloody duck. So
Wayne, jump in anytime. We just started off with a definition of high strangeness, and we're already off.
You're looking
just-
at that strangeness.
Well, the thing is that we don't embrace growth when we're thinking about things. It's like, this is what we've learned, this is where it stays. There are different faiths that cut us off at a different timeline. Like, it's like, no, it can't happen before this, because of their creation stories. And also, I don't think we give ancient man enough credit. Like, they were busy doing all kinds of things, ancient people. I don't want to. So yeah, no, I agree with everything that you say. Lots of people saying hello here. Dolly, hi. Robin has a question.
Do I put it up?
Okay, yes. Robin would like to know, why do you think there's such an effort to keep ancient history from the masses? Well, there goes the show.
Get me started, Robin.
Robin, you don't know Michelle.
No,
no.
You're about to. I think one of the reasons that they do is there's a lot of hidden technologies. There's a lot of belief that there's, a high presence or remnants, and maybe, who knows, even current of interdimensional or multidimensional beings that have been here, and that they did have a lot of technology. You guys have to think back to even Tartaria, for example, which wasn't all that long ago, where you had these monuments that would go up in like 3 months, and the gone within a month, all for the world fairs, etc. There was technology that you would have these large air ships that would come in, and these large rods that would come out of these buildings, and they would power them up that way. Like, there's just technology there that is meant to not be shared with us. A lot of Nikola Tesla's technology. But if you're going back even farther, we're not the first kick of the can. There were races here. Atlantis, a lot of people believe Atlantis was an island, and there are more hardcore research that believe that they were sort of all over the world, and that there's a lot of that technology hidden. There's so much to it. It's a whole other show. It really is. And I'm happy to come back and do it anytime.
Anytime, you are welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
And Wayne as well. So, coming back to vampires, I gave Robin permission to go off topic because he was always asking, I know it's off topic. I'm like, we have no topic, but just work with me today, Robin. Okay. So what drew you to vampires, Michelle and Wayne? What was your first interest in them?
Wayne, go first. You go
Oh,
first.
you go ahead.
I've been yapping the whole time. You go first.
Wayne, go first.
Jeepers. Okay. That's a long time ago. That's when I was just a wee little gaffer. I think for me, it's like all the kids that I went to school with, they all had their like sort of superheroes, right? They were the Superman, the Batman, all the regular stuff. And I didn't like any of the kids, so I didn't want to have the same superheroes as they did. And I didn't even know what a vampire was. So one day I happened along a show, and there was this vampire, and I was like, wow, see, I like that because he's powerful, and yet he still had vulnerability. There was that nice sort of yin and yang sort of thing about it. I really gravitated towards it. And even in the movie done by Anne Rice, the quote was sort of like, I went looking for death, and then sort of death found me, or the vampire found me. That's exactly what it was for me. So I kind of went looking for my place in the world, my superhero, and the vampire kind of found me. So that was what sort of started the ball rolling for me, very, very young age.
So he wasn't part of the popular group. He was sort of in the shadows,
Absolutely.
living his own kind
Like
of
me.
life. Like you. I'm glad you come out of the shadows from time to time, Wayne.
Periodically, I get up in the garage. Yeah, periodically.
And Michelle?
I always believed not so much for me was it vampires per se to begin with. I've always been fascinated, even believe it or not, from the time I was about 8 or 9. I loved watching horror movies in general, but as I got a little bit older, I had a really strong connection. The first book I ever read was Dracula. I mean, yeah, I like vampires, of course
And
it
it
is.
takes 9 hours
It
to
is.
read. I looked.
I know, and I'm a proud owner of a first edition, so I'm really really I really cherish it a lot because I enjoyed the book, and from that point on, even from the time I was like 13, I started doing research, going to the library back then. No internet, aging myself a bit, but you know, so so anyway, I started getting more into Vlad Tepes and getting to understand and trying to get past a lot of the rhetoric that was there. But I think at that point, I grew up in an age of vampire movies. Dracula had been redone so many times with so many actors, and there was always a bride of Dracula. There was always spin-offs. And so for me, the allure was there. And it's just from that point, I ended up with my urge to need to go to Romania. And what is this land beyond the forest? Where is it? What is it about?
Where?
So, so I was just grateful to grow up in a time where, these movies were on all the time, and it just really kept piquing my interest.
Sunday afternoon movies. I think they were all the horror movies and all because I mean we
Yeah.
didn't have VCRs at that time, videos. It was you
See,
watch it when it's on there. I know, a dreadful world to live in, but
see, for us, it was Friday night. Once a month, you'd get an all-nighter of horror movies. They were all the old classics, and they were just like, wow. And my father would stay up with me just because he felt like I needed him to be up with me. Not really, but yay. He'd fall asleep and I'd be,
all I need is Bela Lugosi right now, right?
Yes, right. I know.
and
I know.
and moving it on. And what do you think? Like, obviously, it's a big. It just keeps growing. The vampire thing just keeps growing, becoming more and more popular, going out in different ways. What do you think grabs people? What it is that pulls them in?
Wayne,
I
you
think
go
it's I
ahead.
think it's the mystery of it all. People like the allure of it all. There's the sexiness of it all in many of them. It doesn't always have to be there, but there's definitely the allure of that living forever kind of thing, having whatever you want. I mean, the accumulated knowledge of somebody who would even be 300 years old or 1,000 years old. That accumulated knowledge would be invaluable as you
And
go
money.
forward. I'm sorry?
And money.
And money.
Yeah, you notice they were always rich.
Yeah. No, not always.
It's
Yeah.
like the Highlander, right? He just kept accumulating wealth over the many years, and
Clearly, I'm doing
and
it.
tuxedos. they
None such
do.
wealth.
So we have the lore. We have vampires before the whole Dracula thing happened, and then we have post Dracula happening. So if you were to define a vampire, how would you do that? What would be your criteria for saying this is a vampire?
Do you want like the historical? Okay, well, when you go first, let's see. Do you
No,
want
no,
the
I want you to
historical?
go first. I just finished the last one. You go ahead. What's your vampire?
Okay, I'm going to ask direct questions from now on.
Much better.
Okay, I'm learning.
Ironically, I was going to do a Gray Zone show on this, and we just never got around to it. So I did find a lot of research on it. And some of the oldest and most prevalent, they're said to be in mythology, one of the oldest and most prevalent creatures, literally, in the world of mythology. And the origins remained unknown for like thousands of years. But it only states that a vampire can make another vampire. So who created the first vampire, right? Well, I mean, you got to think, where is this? I personally think they're a race of extraterrestrial beings, but just don't shoot the messenger. I've actually found stuff on it, but allegedly it all began in the Mediterranean with an Italian man named Ambrosio, who traveled to Delhi, Greece. Legend states that he was cursed by the god Apollo and told him that his skin would burn should it touch sunlight, and that he then proceeded to gamble his soul away to Hades, god of the underworld. And then Apollo's sister went on to curse him. It's like, it just goes on and on and on. This guy's been cursed to no end.
Sounds like
And
me.
yeah, right? Maybe you're like,
Yes, but he
Ambrosio.
made poor
I
life
know.
choices.
I
Okay,
know.
obviously he made poor
I
life.
know.
Not you. Him.
You never know. You never know. But where it gets weird is there's a whole line of mythology that is attached, to this, like right down to, how children were born and stillborns. If a baby was born with teeth, for example, or a stillborn, a bat would fly over the corpse. This was a Romanian thing. Being excommunicated by the Orthodox Church, that was in Greece. Being the seventh son of a seventh son. Like, I mean, it goes on and on and on. But there's actually a disorder called porphyria, which is a blood disorder that remains incurable. And the treatment is mainly supportive pain control fluids, things like that. But what it involves, of course, is sensitivity to sunlight. You can end up with fangs, right? Fangs. And it's the blood drinking, reflections are not seen. Like, it's this crazy thing. And it goes on like way back. So there's a whole lot on this. I mean, there's stuff being found thousands of years ago beyond the mythology. So, but again, it would suck up most of your time if I went through all of it. So
No, we want the lore. Okay, we do stories. I mean, in my investigations, and then they go through. So in the original, there wasn't the magic. They didn't have magic like hypnotizing us. They didn't have. They could cross doorways. They could do. But the only thing that stuck was the garlic thing, or anything that has a pungent odor, which would keep any of us away. And the holy objects, because they fight any kind of evil in general. But what I wanted to ask Wayne is, in your series, the dark origins, where do you think you moved away or stayed with the traditional? All the stuff I just said wasn't but the classic vampire as we know it.
I moved away from it. As I say before, it's like, I think the danger of creating a fictional character is that the danger is you can make it do anything you want. And then if you get so far removed from reality, then you lose touch with the reader, you lose touch with reality. So I tried to really follow the reality point of view on everything. I mean, where did they come from? Every lore has a story. Like, there's always like an ounce of truth in every story, I think. I always use an example when I was talking to youth groups and drama classes about vampires. One of the things I would say is like, okay, so here's the scenario, right? You've got a guy running around doing naughty things, and the town gets together, and they get all the guys together with pitchforks and clubs, and they go chase this guy, right? And the guy runs into a cave. So now you've got 12 guys outside going, okay, so you go get him. No, you go get him, right? So now you're having this talk outside the cave. And what ends up happening is the guy runs into the cave, he disturbs all the bats, and the bats all fly out, right? So now they're terrified because, the bats have come out and they're not going into the dark to get the guy. So they fabricate a story. When they go back to the town, did you get the guy? Well, no, he went into a cave, he turned into a bat, and we lost him. And that's how a story starts, right? So it's just to try to save face. So when I created the Vampyre Tales, I really tried to stick to a believable storyline, something that, yes, he was powerful. Yes, he had things about him or her that made them different from the rest of humanity, but they weren't like, they couldn't fly and things like that. As far as religious objects go, I think that many of us take a lot of faith in those objects to protect us, so they feel that, like, well, if I hold a cross in my hand, then it's going to, like, Jesus or God is going to protect me from whatever I'm standing in front of. It gives me strength. Whereas in my stories, my first guy is very devout, actually. He spends quite a bit of time in the church, so it doesn't have that effect on him. But that's just my story.
No, but it is important because this has been a story that has been contributed to over centuries, right? This comes and this goes, and this. Are you guys hearing a whistling?
Yeah, it's the birds.
Oh,
We're parrot babysitting.
okay. I just thought I was
I'm the
going.
new Noah right now. I've got the animals. I also have the air conditioning running with the whistling in the background. It's just
Those are the parrots getting their claim to fame with Wayne.
Okay. As long as I'm saying I'm
Granted.
Okay.
The glamorous life of a vampire.
It's
before you.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Okay, let me write that down. They are patient with parrots.
Yeah, they're still breathing. Let's put it that way.
So we go from these very dark origins took place during what years were this? I can't.
Sort of 1300s, 1400s.
Okay, so now one of the things I heard. Well, I mean, this was a very popular time for vampires in.
That's the fourth book,
area.
Right? That's not the original book. That's the fourth one.
Yes, it's the fourth one. I know, but it's still.
Sure.
I mean, shouldn't have favorites, but it's one of my favorites. Okay,
I do. It's my favorite.
And it says to Michelle in it, which I think is sweet. So, here's your book, Michelle. So,
thank you. I worked hard on it.
Michelle helped with research. It really is, and as I always say, it's more of a historic. I mean, there seems to be two popular times for vampires, right? You have the Middle Ages, and then you have like, Jack the Ripper era London, right, with the dark. I mean, these seem to pull out vampire tales. So we just as far as the stories go, because and I want to get to the pictures. So we had this primitive vampire that just went after its prey, and was a predator, so it came out at night to hunt, and much like the werewolf, and it didn't have any of this finesse or whatever. And then and we have the Middle Ages where I don't know what, Michelle, what you, I just want to hear what your opinions are on this. I'm not saying it's real or it's not. But I read that one of the reasons it was so popular in the Middle Ages is because in Christianity, you do not give food or offerings to the dead because it's disrespectful to God. So then people were thinking, well, they've got to eat something. And it became us. They came to eat us and our life forces. Do you think that is something that would have encouraged a popularity at that time, or?
Well, I mean, ancient cultures all over the world, and cultures even in modern time, give food, and leave food.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with giving.
That's everywhere. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a specific, period of time.
Yeah,
I mean, I you know what, I don't really know. I think, I mean, why do people go to bed with garlic around their necks and hanging on
because
their doors?
It works, according.
I'll tell you exactly why they do that.
I mean, you want to be technical. I mean, the word vampire didn't even show up in any sort of written literature until 1734 with events that go back 4,000 BC.
Yeah,
there's your origins, 4,000 BC. So I don't know. Did the lore always talk about them being, bloodsuckers? Because some vampires can actually eat food.
Mine do.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no. But they
Segue.
also still need that blood to that life force. I mean, and a lot of people
Okay,
believe the idea of blood comes because it is a life force, and so it
exactly.
could be energy, like Colin Robinson.
I would lean towards
Energy
energy
vampire.
personally. Wayne could probably get into that more. Wayne and I've actually talked about this, about the blood. Was it more life force being energy, which I think would be more fulfilling for energy speaking,
Well,
like
it's a
from
couple
that
Well,
things
that's
standpoint.
on that, right? It's like, first of all, back to the garlic thing. I just want to address that really quick. Back in the time of the plague, the cheapest thing around was potatoes and garlic. So the poor folk of the world, that's what they ate. So
Mhm.
when somebody came down with symptoms of the plague and your skin was rotting off your body while you're still alive, there was no hospital. You didn't just take dad over to the hospital. You looked after him in your house, and it stunk, right? So what they would do is they would hang cloves of garlic in the bedroom and all around you, and you had open sores all over you. And they would just tell you, well, Teddy, we're going to hang this garlic up to keep the vampires away from you. That's what's happening. And that is honestly where the research shows that hanging up cloves of garlic came from. It had nothing really to do with vampires. It was just, again, a story to cover up the stench of it all. So that was that. So again, it goes back to those story kind of ideas. What was the other thing you were asking about?
Energy.
Energy.
Oh, yeah, no, that the idea of blood is really that of life force.
Again, we go back to primitive times where if I came out with a cell phone and showed a person a cell phone in 1300, they wouldn't have any way to describe it. There would be no vocabulary for them to describe it. So if a being, a vampire, extraterrestrial, whatever you want to call it, came down and says, well, I survive by taking your life force. That's what I do. They would automatically equate that to blood, because if you take someone's blood from their body, hey, they die, right? And that's what happens. So if someone came and said, I'm going to take your life force, and that's what they would think they were doing. So it could just, again, just be misinterpretation of what is there.
Yeah, no, it's all part of how the lore gets distributed into story. Okay, so Robin, you asked, where did the vampire legend originated from? Does it go beyond Vlad the Impaler? And I think
Yeah, we covered that. Yeah.
yeah, no, we've definitely
Mhm.
answered that question. So as it's like the confusion being, I'm sort of looking at, the Slavic, the area where vampires, so I mean there are stories all over the world, but
Yeah.
where we know of vampires coming, and there are still people doing vampire burials because that was a
Well,
historical
the
thing
older countries,
today.
I agree with you on that. The older countries, I think, are very, very, you have people who are very superstitious. Technically, when you're going back 4000 BC, it's ancient Sumerian Babylonian myths that talk about all of that. So that, if you think about it, people look at the ancient Sumerians, there's a high concentration of belief that there were reptilian beings there from space or underground, wherever they came from. So that might fit the bill of the myth, sort of thing, But I know that in places like Romania and the Slavic countries, like you were mentioning, there is a really high level of superstition still.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's still burials happening. Like in the
Mhm.
museums, they had exhibits in Bulgaria of vampire burials as part of their history, as part of the lore of the country. But
Mhm.
even he was surprised that this was still
Mhm.
happening.
Right.
So Dolly says fear governs responses to illness these people had to deal with. The disease was an autoimmune syndrome. People then went to natural antibiotics to make better. Okay. So
Again,
I'm
that
looking.
goes back to what Michelle said about being sick.
Yeah.
And I mean, again,
Mhm.
you look at weird things and superstitions and stuff. Somebody dies in a village and then all your sheep die. Well, that's a coincidence, but hey, there's a connection. So they go and dig up Uncle Ted, and they weren't used to decomposition and digging up bodies and what happens. And well, you know what? The hair still grows, and then your gums recede, so you got these fangs, and blood gurgles up from your stomach into your mouth. It looks fresh. All of a sudden, you've got The Walking Dead happening, right? So this is how all that came from.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
that's
a lot of it is generation too. And I'll give one quick example. When I was in Egypt, I was asking about the Curse of King Tut. I had two different guides. One was an older man, and I had just been to the museum. I got to see the whole thing at home and at the Cairo Museum. And the older generation would say, "Oh no, there's this bad curse, and you have to be careful." The younger generation, he looked at me and he started to laugh because I wanted to get the view of both. And he just
right,
said,
right.
"Well, the older generation liked to believe it was a thing," but then he went on to with the more logical explanations. So I think the mindset plays a huge role in all of this lore.
No,
Well, it definitely does.
exactly. It does. It's not knowing. I mean, what is stories are explanations for things we don't have yet.
Right.
So I
It's
mean,
true. I mean, you're
from the
not.
very first story by the fire.
Mm.
So when we talk about the stake in the heart and things, shallower graves or farm implements, which sort of made me laugh because I see the villagers heading for the castle with all
Right.
their farm implements. But
Mm.
farm implements will fix that corpse to the coffin, so it's less likely to get moved around by animals and things
Mhm.
taking it away. So the movement, the bloating, all of those things they had no understanding of,
Mm.
and so it sort of went from there. So as the story progresses throughout history, then we have what's his name? I wrote down Polderry. I think that is how you say it. Vicky, you had this all worked. Okay. Polderry took the challenge out with the Shelleys and Lord Byron to write a ghost story and wrote the Vampire. And then Bram Stoker at a perfect time. I mean, there were other stories that were starting to come out during
And then you
that
had
time as the
Nosferatu as
lore
well.
came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Leo Tolstoy's cousin wrote
Mhm.
one, which I had no idea. So then he took all of this together and at perfect timing wrote Dracula. And that's where we get into the tuxedos and the magic and all of that sexy stuff, which has led to so many vampire vampire slash werewolves erotica out there, as well as mysteries, as well as yours, which I consider more of a historical tale than a horrific tale,
Well, it's historical fiction.
Wayne, because which is why I mean there's a lot of historical research done in there. So we have Brahms Dracula, and we're headed for Romania, which is the accent that we've all got used to in those late night or Sunday afternoon movies.
Mm.
Michelle, do you want to take?
Take pictures? Is that what you want?
Well, we can
What
go
do you
through
want to
his
talk about?
history
Um,
as we go, and if you want to, I'm just gonna check.
well,
Vicky,
Mhm.
I want to just bring a point up here with
Yeah.
what Michelle made about Nosferatu, and as you say, historical fiction is what I write. And what I found interesting was when I was researching for book 3, Unnatural Selection, what I found was something fascinating about the Nosferatu tale was the fellow that wrote it. Because my memory's really going, but I think it was his brother was in the German infantry in World War I, and they were on maneuvers to get to wherever they were going, and it was getting dark, so they marched into this little town, this little village, and they set up in a barn. The guy went to the head guy went to the farmer and said, "Can we stay in your barn overnight? It's going to be cold." And the farmer said, "Yeah, you can stay in there, but once I close the door, like put the barrier up to keep the door closed, right? Because there's things in the woods." And they laughed. They just said, "Well, it's just like, we don't care. We have guns. If anything comes around, we'll shoot it." And the guy basically said, "Your guns are useless against what's in the woods at night," right? So, and they spent a terrorized night in this barn. just terrorized. Claw marks, all kinds of stuff. Now, no one knows what it was, but it was enough to scare this guy so badly that when he got out of the war, he spoke to his brother and said, "This is what happened out in the woods." And his brother went on to write Nosferatu. And then what I did in book 3 was I took sort of artistic license and actually had that guy, that infantry soldier, meet my character, my vampire character, in the trenches in World War One. And when the sort of interrogation afterwards came of the one survivor from the other side, he said, "What did you see?" And he said, like, "I saw a red-eyed demon." Like, "Why did you guys send a red-eyed demon to kill us? Like, what was that all about?" And when the commanding officer went to talk to my guy about what he saw, he said he doesn't remember anything, but he did ask what the name of the soldier was. He goes, "Oh, he's a young kid. Like, why do you care?" He goes, "I don't know. It just seems sad. He's a young guy, right?" And he quotes the name, and it's the name of the guy from the 1st Infantry whose brother wrote the book Nosferatu. So that's why I try to tie everything together in real history.
Yeah, no, and so that was World War One.
That's right, yeah.
Because it was 1922 when
But that's creepy. That's creepy
out.
because that's some kind of an eyewitness account there of something very unusual out there that was terrorizing them.
We don't like to think about that.
I know. I know.
It's like, thing, did you want to take a few questions first, or do you want to go to the pictures?
I'd love to talk a little bit about what Kathy made mention of. I put a star on it if you want to bring it, because this is more modern time. It's more modern time.
And what about the legend of Saint Germain?
Yes, this is a really big one, because it actually, the last sighting of him was in, I believe, the 80s, and the Count Saint Germain was an alchemist. So does alchemy actually have anything to do with it? And here's how we tie it into Romania. He was allegedly born the son of Arakolski II, Prince of Transylvania. And people believe that it actually goes back to the time of Christ, however, and was at the wedding, where Jesus turned water into wine. They believe he was there. He believes that he had been present during the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. He appeared many times through history, with the most recent being in the 1970s, but always appears as a 45-year-old man. So he traveled in upscale circles back in 1742 with people like Casanova, Madame de Pompadour, King Louis XV, Catherine the Great. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Very refined, many languages. That talks a little bit about, what we were talking about with respects to fitting the bill, I guess, of what we're used to seeing. He's linked to secret societies such as the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, Illuminati, Order of the Templars, Knights of Light, Society of the Assistic Brothers. Now, the Knights of Light, I thought I read something about that at one point, some connection to Romania. But, allegedly, it went on and on and on. And after he disappeared in 1972, his most recent appearance was 1972, but he ended up in New Orleans, hometown of United Public Radio, and allegedly lived in Louisiana going back to 1902. And the address was, people always go here, 1041 Royal Street. And I have to tell you, there are so many vampire stories, I think, which is why Anne Rice may have chosen New Orleans. She loved because of the multiple vampire stories and sightings in New Orleans. Now, to take one step further, to Count Saint Germain, I just happened upon this article. I'll share it with you about Einstein. He goes, it looks like Albert Einstein accidentally proved the validity of Count Saint Germain's methods for achieving immortality. So he actually proved it. I know. And then it gets into this mathematical equation that comes out, which echoes the scientific echo of the Hermetic principle, as above, so below. But the key lies in his discovery that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. So it goes on and on and on. But he says, as the universe survives transformation from one form to another, so too can consciousness transcend the physical body and continue to exist in obviously astral zero planes. So are we seeing physical? Are we seeing spirits? Ghosts? I
That
don't know.
is the question. Okay, people, look up Saint Germain for
I know.
further research.
Right.
Okay, so now where would you like to go?
Wherever you want.
Okay.
I just,
I was there anything else you wanted to answer there, or are you good?
no, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll bring up a picture here, and
Okay.
Michelle can tell
Okay.
us a little bit about.
Okay. Well, that one is. I'm going to just play around with this for one bit because this is in my album, and I don't want to have people in it. So I had a different one altogether up here. Okay, let's go with this
Michelle
one.
has a huge Romanian album.
It's like 1,100 pictures. Yeah.
So,
So
well,
this is
oh,
when I
go ahead.
visited July 13th, and of course my friends who I was with up until August 29th. I mean, I still get pictures that I added to the album, so that's why there's a recent date on there. But I thought I would share with you Bran Castle because this is the one
Right.
that has been seen in all the movies. People are very curious about it. So as I, if I drop the pictures out for a moment, it's only because I'm going through the album. So I'm going to start right here. This is coming up to Bran Castle. Okay. And I'll go forward. Okay, that's looking down from that trail. So as we come up, we start getting, this is what comes up the hill.
So we see the large cross.
Hmm. So what people don't realize, sorry, let me just sort of get through some of this. This is the entrance in. Not as grand as one may think, right? So, but it's believed that Dracula, like this is sort of like a border castle, and it's believed that he never even spent a night here. Like they can't really prove that he ever actually spent a night here. So it sort of makes you wonder then why the allure. You go in there, there's stuff all over the place, pertaining to Dracula. Comes around the side a little bit. But I really just wanted to give people a little bit of a glimpse of this incredible castle surrounded by the Carpathians, looking down. I mean, it is beautiful. Romania is probably one of the last European countries that is, it started being forested when we were there. And I know even now, King Charles now, who is a direct descendant of Vlad, it fights very hard to try to preserve the wildlife in the forests here in Romania. So as you can
Because
see, it's
because
quite
it is,
beautiful.
yes, from the pictures it's beautiful, and looking at them earlier, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. Do you think that landscape, that atmosphere, contributes to lore in different areas? Like there is a richness coming out of Romania with lore, and it is so beautiful, misty, foresty. Do you think that contributes to it, or it's just
Oh
people
heck yeah.
talking?
Heck yeah. You just have to go to the haunted forest for that. It's I think your mind can run away. You can run away with you for sure. Or from you. It's you get into some of these dense places and you look at this castle stemming out into the shadows. Even like Bram Stoker, who has never been to Romania, the way he envisioned it and the way he wrote the story, um, you could put yourself there. And there's whole tours. Stoker does whole tours on the places named in the book. But even when you read, Wayne's book, Dark Origins, the way he describes it, when we talked about that, and I explained to him what it felt like to be within the mountains and to be like the intensity of that, like they come alive. And being in Hoyabatsu forest, it definitely did. It felt like it was alive, and I mean, in many ways, it is because I sort of had my rear end almost pretty much handed to me that night. So there's definitely something to the lore. Sorry, I just want to get over here.
So landscape and atmosphere does make a difference to all the
It
writers out
does.
there.
Yes, it absolutely does. It absolutely does. I think it has everything to just, um, I don't know. I think it is part of, why does, if you go see a play and you're just listening to the words, it's not going to have the same impact if you're not looking at the background. I walk through
No,
places.
but it
Yeah,
does create, like I said, Jack the Ripper era England. Like there
yeah.
are times and places that vampires, Louisiana, New
Mhm,
Orleans.
mhm.
There are times and places where vampires are more popular.
Right,
So
right.
it
I'm just getting another picture.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no, we can talk as we can continue.
Kind of
As
like it's
Michelle
kind of
is
like
looking
our
for
house.
pictures.
It's kind of like our house. I won't lie. Okay, here we go. um, I look at some of these pictures and it's like people often ask me, where do I get inspiration? Because they've seen some of the photos I've posted of some of the pieces
Interiors.
that we have, the
Yeah.
interiors. Exactly. This is the inspiration because much of our furniture is like this.
I can see that in your other home, like the
Yeah,
chairs and things, most
yeah,
definitely. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
It's all still there. Oh, I have to share this for one quick minute. This is Tico. And back during this time, Tico, this little bear, was called Tico Travels, and he was a bear for autism. And people would take him. A friend of mine runs this organization with Autism Canada, and I took Tico everywhere throughout Romania. I would take him out through a lot of my haunted tours and places I would visit throughout this entire year. So this is Tico, and this was raising awareness for autism. And there's a lot of pictures. Tico's been everywhere. Tico led the zombie parade that year with Wayne and I in the hearse, and it got to a point where she just said, "You know what? I think you could just keep this Tico." Because he's been places that I don't think I'd be wiggy about taking him back. So, wow. All right. So, but these are just, again, the dark areas and it's very primitive. Like you really go back in time when you look at the decor of this
The
place.
hand
And
carvings of the furniture, it's
mhm,
big. I'm just describing for those who may not be able to see. So we're talking big furniture, old wood, hand carved. I always like the hand carved.
yes.
You know, a lot of space with, I mean, it's still very sparse.
Hmm. Yes.
Um,
And
in the
this,
decorating. It's that whole, would you call it Bavarian? With the buildings and that, would that
I think
be
so. Yes. Yes. It was very, very similar. And I think too in decorating even modern times, there's a huge Bavarian and German influence
oh,
throughout the area. These are the pictures here. This you may recognize some of these. This is where the movies In Search of Dracula was. Christopher Lee, I think, had a big part in that. And when he was Dracula, you will actually see this, the outside here. Okay, that we're getting into my funky dunky. So let me try to get back to some good pictures. But
if
I
oh,
no, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, if you are just listening to this episode, please come back to Michelle's Canada's Most Haunted site or the station site, UPN or Fika with Vicky, and take a look at these pictures. They're absolutely gorgeous. So you don't want to miss those. Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, no, just yeah, showing more photos. But you see, I mean, just look at it. It's so primitive. Yeah, it takes you back in time. I think the one thing I have truly loved about um, my travels and my work has been because I can be in places like this. I've been in many incredible places throughout the world, and these are the things that stick with me. Just these incredible, yet
And the
primitive.
huge stone fireplace and the stonework as well.
Yeah.
It's just, and to know, I mean, obviously, when you go to these places, you're standing there and thinking of all the people that have come before you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just
Exactly.
walking into something new and the contractors were there. No,
You
you
can
have.
act.
I'll tell you something though, looking at these pictures, when you look at how massive these armoires are and these wardrobes are, and then you look at the staircases that are super narrow and the hallways that are really low ceilings and really narrow. And having moved Michelle's furniture
I was gonna say.
I marvel not at the beauty of the item, is the guys that had to carry that through those little tight spaces and not scratch anything.
Because that's who you relate to, Wayne, the guys who
Absolutely.
have to
That's what I
carry
see when I look at all that. It's a marvel.
It's
Okay.
true. There are pieces of furniture that it literally takes, several people to lift.
One chair you have takes 3 guys to move it.
So,
Okay?
hey,
That's a
you
chair,
took that
okay?
table that I if it's heavy, it's Michelle's.
Yep.
But I haven't seen an image of a window. Now, were there big windows? Could there be
Oh,
levers and pulleys used?
I did. Let me go back and get some windows.
I was probably looking at Wayne. Like, is it possible that there were levies and pulleys used to lift this from the outside?
Okay, 1 second.
I'm just thinking here,
Here's
Wayne.
an
What do you think?
example. Here's an example.
Okay, no,
Well,
it's little windows too.
they're little windows. I mean, not that there aren't bigger ones, not here per se, and you've seen the doorways, like the narrow, I really think that, I mean, some of the castles, like Corvin Castle, again, they were much the same. You didn't want big windows. You did not
No, because
want.
they were fortresses. They were for protection, not castles the way we think of a Disney princess
No,
palace.
exactly.
Those are
Exactly. I
palaces.
mean, you can see everything is just fortified. So I mean, and the hallways are small. They're not really large, right? So this is the outside again. But these are the popular scenes, the popular shots that you would see in documentaries. You really didn't get to look at the interior of Bran Castle, Adi, one of our team members, my teammates. So you really did not get to see this stuff very often. This is why I really wanted to share
The interiors.
interior, because unless you go, you just don't get to see it very often. This is probably the most popular photo of Bran Castle right here, is this tower. This is the one, the big squared off tower, and this is what people recognize when they see Bran Castle. So
Right. No, it does.
Tico Tico did all right. So
The stonework. Tico's
Yeah.
been everywhere. The stonework, and because they were fortresses, because these were not peaceful times.
They were not peaceful times, and you know what? There have been haunted shows. I'm just getting to some more. There have been
Yeah.
haunted shows about this where they have filmed at this castle, and allegedly it is very haunted.
But you
as
would
well.
think, if
The history,
yeah,
right?
and
These are
and
the main
so
doors.
such a long history. So many people, whether it was a sad tale or not.
hmm Well, you have to remember as well that a lot of the royal family that was in Romania during the revolution in the 80s, everybody lost their castles. They were taken. And when the dictators pretty much was overthrown, and I don't want to get into any names, don't want to get us flagged, but the castles were slowly handed back to the families who owned them. And the family that the part of the royal family that owns this castle has done wonderful things for the community. They have really so you can tell I love architecture. They have created a village theme So you can go down and buy all your Dracula souvenirs and a lot of really wonderful things. They've really revitalized the town of Bran. But people don't realize that Bran is known for its vineyards, its ski resorts. It's not all just Dracula, who was essentially Vlad being like a hero in Romania.
Yes, well, of course, because he stood up
Yeah.
and he got things done. That's the thing. When Romania opened up again, it was ripe for tourism because everybody around the world was, Dracula, werewolves, all of that. So
Right.
it would be a great economic boost to the area. And that's probably why people, he didn't spend time here or whatever, but it's like the
Mhm.
whole Robin Hood legend or King Arthur or what have
Mhm.
you. Everybody wants to lay claim to where they were because
Mhm.
then you get tourism, right?
Yes. Yes. No, exactly. But
It's
that's what
not
it's all
about historic
about.
correctness, Wayne.
I just came back with like t-shirts and wine. But they
I
all had
wanted to know, you showed that one picture where you had a gift bag from I think it was Corvin Castle.
Yes.
And I'm
yes.
like, what's in the
Everybody
gift bag?
asked me
Michelle?
about that. I'm like, look at this beautiful castle behind me. What's in the bag?
I'm curious about the little things.
They were prints of the castle. Different prints. They're easy to travel with because they're
Mhm.
very small. And we were there for like almost 3 weeks, so I had a lot of stuff to buy. I ended up buying luggage to come back with.
I'm not surprised.
I know.
I'm surprised no furniture got sent. Did furniture get sent home?
No, not on that trip.
Did you want it to?
Yes, all of it. But yes, but there are prints that were done by various artisans back there. So yeah, there's so much to see. But that was essentially Bran Castle. So that's the interior for those curiosity seekers. So I had them listed on my Facebook for a long time, and then I just took off a lot of my personal photos, but those all would have been there. So they were up for probably a few years for people to see and share up.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing because if you want to share more,
Oh,
feel free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
The boss says I can go overtime. So
Right. Okay. Yes, this is true. This is very true. Okay.
So she gets to do whatever makes her happy.
We'll come to Hundora then. How about that? Castle Corvin. This is the one, they call it the fairy tale castle. It's been in all kinds of movies. It's been in all kinds of the paranormal shows. I'll see if I can hold on here. Again, trying to keep people's personal images out. So this is it coming up to it. Wait a minute, where'd I go? Come on. Okay, there we go. There we go.
So this is one that you see in a lot of programs.
It is.
Corvin.
It really is because it's very picturesque. It's just a beautiful, to me, piece of architecture. And as you can see, I go brain dead over castles and towers and things like that. And this is, the surrounding areas around it. These here are like our gift shops and such. So these are all original buildings that they've incorporated into this, what it would have been at the time, people living there who maybe worked in the castle and so on. But just beautiful. And it was under restoration while we were there. Lots of different parts of it were there. Also haunted. And the reason for that is it's believed that the story we were told is that there was somebody who worked at the castle in modern times, and they were doing, I guess, sort of not seances, but satanic rituals in one of the areas where there's sort of a crypt area where there's a sarcophagus, and it sort of just brought something in. And then that was it. The person was fired. Well, all that sort of stayed there. So there's that. And this is where Vlad was imprisoned for about 10 years. He was imprisoned a couple of times in his life. And this is one of those locations where he was He was there for a very long time. I'm just getting there. You go. There's a famous picture with the bags.
With the bag. I did
prints
note
that I
the
bought there.
beautiful castle behind, but I had
What's in the bag?
information on that. I did not have information on what was in the bag.
That's what was in the bag. I'm pretty sure the bag makes an appearance a couple of times in here.
It does, which is
you
why
know.
it was just, there was always the bag, but no unveiling.
Always the bag.
Well, Vlad did not have the most wonderful childhood or early years, and that explains a lot of why he developed the reputation that he did.
Well, he was also the sign of the time. So people, he gets this rap for impaling people, but you have to remember he was raised by the Turks from the time he was 5 years old. And the Turks were impaling everybody all over Europe at that point, where that the Ottoman Empire had control over. This was a sign of the times. He was the reason that he was a good military strategist is because he was taught how to be. So
and
who
to
taught
scare
him that?
people. You come up to a castle with many people on poles outside it, and you're going to be at least not concentrating on what you're supposed to be concentrating on. And if you were me, you would run away. It would not be good. But yeah, we forget a lot about that in history. The times are the times, and you do what you have to do to survive. And
Right.
and so that's sort of how he got pulled into the entire vampire slot, because of his reputation for being violent and
Yes.
and
Well,
necessarily so. So he is a hero
yes.
in that area, not a villain.
No, he is a hero. I mean, he had a very small army compared to the Ottomans, and he managed to hold them off quite a bit with help from allies and family. But in the end, obviously, it is what it is, and there's a lot of different conspiracies involving that. So again, these are just some interior, exterior shots that you won't see. Very primitive, Melissa. Me. This is the area where they allegedly had this dark ritual. And you look down off of a whole other level, and you can look way down, and this is what you see. So this is where it happened. See, I would kill for a chair like that.
See, she's shopping. She's shopping. You are not going to find that on Marketplace, Michelle.
No, you won't. That's for sure. But I've come close.
He's like, thank goodness, because I don't want to know how heavy those chairs are.
I check boxes.
Yeah, tell you how heavy those chairs are.
Well, we do have some similar
How heavy are those chairs?
They're very heavy, aren't they? The small ones that are upstairs. Yeah, they're solid. Sorry, Wayne.
You're not sorry.
She thought if she was sorry, she would stop. I should stop. I'm causing trouble.
I see chairs, and he looks at me, and I'm looking at something. He goes, it's not a chair, is it? I'm just like, yes, it's a chair.
See, I have two criteria for chairs or for whatever she buys. Right? Is it old and one of a kind, and is it extraordinarily heavy? Like, those are the two things it has to be before I will agree.
I think the extraordinarily heavy part is just what comes with it being old and one of a kind.
It's got to be one of a kind and extraordinarily heavy.
And usually the criteria.
That's what comes.
Yeah. This is a grand hall, of course. This has all been redone. Just the restoration is just beautiful. But see, I go really stupid when I see like arches and stuff, like Gothic arches.
Well, they go with the tops of the chairs.
They sure do, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So it's all part of the no, it is beautiful. Like, once again, I say find one of the sites and go take a look, because they're beautiful, beautiful pictures.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. So I'm
and
just,
that's
yeah. So there's all kinds. I mean, my God, pictures could just go on and on and on. I like people to get a little glimpse of what it was like to even live in this time. It's very
and
primitive.
the story, okay, quite often fact is more exciting than fiction. And the story behind Vlad the Impaler is is as interesting as Dracula itself. Like when you
Mhm.
start going back in time and researching behind the fiction, you you find just amazing things, and it helps you to understand what is, the okay, we're not there yet, people, but we've come a long ways
I know.
as far as civilization when you look back at these things.
Yes. Yeah. I've been very fortunate in my life. I really have. I've been fortunate. I have visited some incredible places, and I always say I leave a piece of myself behind wherever I go, and I bring a piece back with me. See these quadrifoils? Same idea as Gothic arches. I go stupid. So I
No, but
do.
they're beautiful. It shows artwork. It shows the individual artwork of these things. I mean, you don't have to be religious to appreciate cathedrals. You
No.
don't have to be. There is nothing. I love architecture. Like even if we go to Philadelphia, like I mean, that's much more obviously much more modern. But the earlier stuff there is just amazing to look at. I love to walk around streets and look at the different buildings and architecture. So I get it completely.
With
And
a
it is.
stained glass
Is
box
there,
that we
you
get
said
picked
you,
up from the market. It weighs a lot too.
Yeah, this is
this is,
wow.
no,
Wow.
it has to be, not that I would, everybody is themselves regardless of gender. But I do know that when my husband and I went to visit a Buddhist temple and for an open doors thing, and there's a great big giant bell at the top of this building. And so when they asked any questions, did my husband ask about the enlightenment or the thing? He said, yeah, how did you get that bell up here? And then all of
But
these
it's
guys were
true.
nodding.
I know.
Like how? And they put it in before the building, the ceiling, they pulled it up with a crane and put it in before the ceiling was in place, because I figure
Right.
Wayne wants to know that now. But
Right.
but it is a thing, different ways. The
Yes.
loveliness and the practicality. So, and Wiki has a lot of experience with your chairs and restoring and finding. But that's where it works, right? Because while
Mhm.
he's restoring something back to its original thing, you're out shopping to get those original things. So it's
Well, she's shopping to get the next thing that needs repairing.
I know. I honestly, I get devastated because I found a pair of chairs and I almost lost my mind. And they came up and I looked at him and I said, I don't care what it costs. I'm going to own these chairs. And he looked at me. Because I think you probably tell by look on my face. I was like, no. This is going to be a thing. That guy took them off the listing. And it haunted me for days. I'm just like, where are my chairs? So, yeah. So I do get a little, yeah. But for me, it's because I resonate with all of these places. I'm sure it's a past life thing. I just resonate with these places and surrounding myself. Like people will look at me here, for example, and go, "Oh, what a beautiful is that? Is that a set or just a like a screen image?" I'm like, no, it's kind of like what our house looks like. And it brings me comfort. Like when I look at them, I look at the workmanship, but I resonate so strongly with that type of furniture or just having it in my space. It's as close as I can get to it.
I hear you, Michelle. I'm not sure, Wayne. Dave says, Vicky, you
It's
are
just like,
stirring the pot. I don't mean to be stirring the pot. It just happened. It was an I think the pot was
a
already
good
stirring
sport.
with a magical spoon. And
Yeah.
you're just accusing me of
Oh,
holding
I
on.
know. He's a really good sport.
No, it's not. And everybody has their things. And there's the practical as opposed to the aesthetic of something, right? So
Right.
Michelle just sees this beautiful chair full of history, and all she wants is to bring it home to be
And
cared for
love
with her
it.
other beautiful chairs. And Wayne's like, too heavy, not enough room.
I know.
Well, there's two things that happen when it comes down to that sort of thing. There's the me, and then there's the Michelle. So there's the me who is trying desperately hard not to damage anything when we're moving something, and she'll hear like a little like that, and she'll be like, "What's that? What'd you do?" I'm like, "That's okay. It's okay. It was my elbow. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's good." And then it's all in position, and she'll be moving something around. She'll walk through it. I'll hear this, boom, like that, and I look at her, and she looks at me. I'm like, "Oh, glad that wasn't me." And that is the difference.
So
I mean, I'm wrong.
When the great
know.
Michelle
I know.
Museum is opened
I
and
know.
they all find a home, then all will be well. There will be people hired to do this. And Wayne, you can take a holiday, which you will not take because you will find another project to restore regardless. Okay.
Much like how the vampire finds me, the project will find me.
Oh, you go
Even
looking
if
for
I
the
don't want
project.
it, it finds
I
me.
don't think the project
The
finds
project
you.
finds
You
me.
go
I moved
looking
into this
for it.
place. There was no projects. Now I have 7.
Michelle.
Yes. What do you want from me?
So vampires.
Yes.
So Dracula came in, and we have this debonair, the sexy, rich guy happening out there. And they seem to be getting more and more sexy as we go along.
Mhm.
Is there
I
any
know.
explanation for this, do you think? Or is
Wow.
just
Have you
this
seen the cover of Dark Origins?
once
Whose
again
idea do you think that was?
a favorite vampire in here for
It's marketing. It's marketing. It's all marketing. It's like, if you've got some, ugly looking dude, and everybody can relate to that dude. Nobody wants to go pay $15 to see their own life unfolding in front of a screen. I mean, back in the day when they started filming the vampire stuff, when they first did the bite, they were like, "Ooh, no. It's got to be pretty. We're going to make 2 little tiny holes in the neck because you know why? We don't want to upset the female viewers."
well,
And
also
that's exactly what came down.
but also, yeah, no, it has to be clean and it has to be
Yeah.
sexual. But also, if you actually bit down on someone with human teeth, you could make them very sick. And
Mhm.
drinking too much blood can make you very sick. Not that I know this from experience. This is just
Not what Dave says.
what's that?
Not what Dave says.
Well, this is what I'm not
Dave's
saying
like, keep me out of it.
You're just researching as you go along. I'm just researching as I go along, Wayne. I don't want to cause any.
I mean, if you were in a hurry, like I always go back to the logic of it all, right? If you're a predator and you've got to make a kill and get a pint or a liter of blood, whatever, out of somebody's body in a hurry before somebody comes along, you are not going to make 2 pinpricks. You're just not. You're built differently. Your mouth would be different. Your teeth would be different. You would remove a large chunk of that flesh and get it out of the way so that the blood would pour easily. And
as we imagine a werewolf
what I do.
attack to be,
Yeah.
it would be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it's vicious and it's quick and it's over.
But we don't, and to be honest, during this era, with all the physical labor and all of the heavy picking up of anything and the armor and that, they would be more muscular because they are not eating French fries and they're working out. Their life is a workout.
Mhm.
But I would like to say to the author, much like Outlander, where there is a Jamie Fraser that is a woman writing his lines and his sensitivities, but you did this as you, Wayne. No one would suspect here and now that this is you, Wayne.
Yeah.
You wrote that. And so I highly suggest these books. If you're in the area, you can meet him somewhere to get them or order them through the mail. Is that where we're still at, Wayne?
Yeah, that's where we're at.
That's where we're going. Well,
Yeah.
I think this has been a great introduction into this subject. Like, there's so much. Where do you go? And what
Can
do
I
you
leave
guys
off
think?
with one thing?
Yeah, no, you do whatever you want. I'm just
Vampires in the New World. There was a case. This one has been on quite a few shows. Her name was Mercy Brown.
right.
And she was known as New England's last vampire, which is located in Exeter, Rhode Island. This was, I think, 1892 when she died. She was 19 of consumption and tuberculosis. And back then there was a large vampire craze in that town, in that area, and they believed she was feeding off humans. They exhumed her. Her heart was removed and burned, and the ashes were put in a mixture and fed to her sick brother to ward off evil. But it goes to show, I think, when people came from the old world into the new world, you bring with you your traditions, your stories, you bring your folklore. That all comes with you. And I imagine if you are perhaps, a vampire, then of course you're just going to do what Vlad did when he fired himself off to England, right? So I think, could we in the New World, like the Count Saint Germain, who ended up in New Orleans, could they have come here? How many walk among us? New Orleans is said to have many. People have been attacked and said he was there one minute, gone the next.
I'm a firm believer that the stories come with us, and what stops any other being from coming as well? Nothing would stop them. Whether they're other dimensional and they come through doorways on this side of the ocean, I mean, they can change their vampires as we know them today are very much human in look, or they can change that. I agree. I think, do they walk among us here? And are you going out tonight without your garlic? No, the Mercy Brown story is, I did thank you. I did want to touch on that. It's a fascinating tale. Like so much of it. So there's a lot to begin with here. There's a lot of places for people to go and research some bases behind the lore that we have, why it would happen. Wayne, there's a new Nosferatu movie out this year. I saw while I was doing all this. I didn't know, so I don't know. I don't know if you hate new things.
Hate everything.
You don't hate pizza.
No.
So we have major. So that's coming out this year, and yes, there are so many vampire books out there right now. So I'm glad we got a chance to touch on the behind the scenes before.
I'd like to see them make something new instead of remaking everything over and over again. But that's just me.
You know why I'm angry at AI right now? I'm angry at AI right now because there was a trailer for a movie that was supposed to have Keanu Reeves in it, a new Dracula movie. So I was all excited. And it turns out that it was just a fake made with AI. And this movie is not happening now.
It's like Dracula Uncovered or Untold with Luke Evans. After the first one, then they said, oh, there's a new one in production. Yay. Because I love it when they, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, when they merged some of the past and the history in with the lore and part of what the book says, and they keep coming back and forth. I love that.
Well, more so, like, what was the latest one? I can't remember. The actor was on the last Lord of the Rings, and he's been on a few things. But that one definitely had Vlad the Impaler as Dracula. Like, they showed the transitions, like when his wife was dumped from the tower, he just put it all in and became a vampire. And I think any good husband would do
that. Was Luke Evans.
Yes. Evans. Oh, okay, that's Luke Evans. Yes. Okay.
But that's what I mean.
I couldn't remember that. That was excellent.
But it was about Vlad. right? It was
Yeah.
a story of Vlad, and then he just sort of did this crossover. There's a lot of stuff there that you can go into a whole other direction. It is crazy stuff.
It was I'm sorry. Because I didn't know the actress in that. And I always think you look at much cheaper things than I do, Michelle.
Always.
This came on and this was on Netflix and I happened to catch it, but I couldn't remember the name. So yes, I agree. And that is, I was going to look it up too before this. That was a good portrayal. I think I liked it. Okay, so thank you very much. We're going to say goodbye. I don't want to. I hope you had a good time, Wayne.
Oh,
That's Wayne having a good time.
It's true, people. It's true. Okay,
make it personal. It's just me.
And thank you so much for all the comments and everything. There was just a ton to get to. So thanks, guys.
Thank you
Take
for
care,
having us.
and we'll talk again real soon. Okay, Michelle, come back in a couple of weeks or whatever if you want to go down. I can't even remember what that was, but there was another topic. I'll go back and watch.
Ancient civilizations.
Yeah. That's it. Yes. Take care, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. And Michelle's still there. I thought okay. Okay, she's back. I'm hitting this remove. Not that I want to remove you. It's just all right. That's what we normally do now. Next week, Daniela Samini will be back to finish the conversation we didn't finish 2 weeks ago. Until then, may your coffee be hot and your story sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone.